Hey everyone, in today's video, I'm going to show you how to set up a search engine in your app using Elasticsearch. So the reason why you would want to use this is because anytime that you have to allow the users to search within your app for a particular word somewhere. So here, for example, I have a list of books in my database and that's in German. So let me try something else. But we see here, there's a bunch of text here, right? So if I wanted to allow the users to be able to search for some text either here in the description, the title, or whatever, the way that you search inside of a database can be very inefficient, especially when you want to search across multiple columns. So by having a search engine like Elasticsearch, you can do this much more efficiently. So when the users go to search, they'll get like instant results instead of like waiting for their database to search, and it takes several seconds. And as your data grows, the searching in Elasticsearch will still be fast, whereas the searching across the database will be slow. So that's why you would want to use something like Elasticsearch for this. So in this video, I'll show you how to set it up with Docker. I'll show you how to query this Elasticsearch search engine index in your code, and I'll talk about how you can use it in your project. So before I get into any of that, I just want to mention that I do have something called the coaching program. So if you need help with your app, like something like this, Elasticsearch, implementing it in your app, or just anything else in your Django project, you can reach out to me. I can help you in a one-on-one situation over Zoom, and I can help you solve any problems that you have. So with that said, let's get into this example where I use a search engine. And first, let me just show you the example where I can search for a book. We'll say Django here. I've added two books called something with Django, and we see here it returns two books that have Django. So this is the idea. You basically have this search, and you can quickly search all the things in your index very quickly and display the results to the user. So I'm going to show you how to build this in this video. And with that said, let's get started with working on this example. To start, let me show you what I have so far. I have this running Django app here, and I have a model inside of the app called book. So the idea is I'm going to have books in the database and the Elasticsearch index, and I will be able to search through those. So if I go over to my browser, you see I have books in the admin dashboard. I don't have anything here, so I'll just create a book here. We'll call this Basics of Django. Let's say I'm the author and this book teaches you Django, right? So obviously not a real book, but the idea is I'll have some data in my database, and I eventually want to add that into the Elasticsearch index so the users in my app can easily search through that. So I'll go ahead and save this, and I have the one book there. I'll add more books as time goes on. So with this, I can start to integrate Elasticsearch. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to use Elasticsearch itself. So it's just something you can download and run, like it's a separate standalone service, and you just connect to it through a URL. So what I'll do is I'll run it through Docker, since that's the easiest way to get it set up. So I'll create a Docker compose file, and I'm just going to copy and paste the setup here for it because it's pretty straightforward. So I start with an image, so Elasticsearch 8.13, which is the latest version at the time of recording this video. I'm creating a volume, so when I turn off the Elasticsearch instance and then turn it back on, the data is still there. So I just call the volume esdata01, and I'm putting it here in the volumes, and it's being mapped to this location inside of the container. So users share Elasticsearch/data. That's where all the Elasticsearch data is stored. Elasticsearch runs on port 9200 by default, so I'll just use that port, and I'll expose it outside of the container so I can connect to it through my local environment, which will be my Django app, and through my browser. And then I'm just saying it's a single node type, and I'm disabling the security so I don't have to connect using HTTPS. So like I said, you connect to it with HTTP, like a URL. So by disabling security here in my dev environment, I don't have to worry about setting up anything with HTTPS. So with that, I can go ahead and just do Docker compose up, and it's going to download the Elasticsearch image and then start up the container. So I'll come back when that is done. Okay, it looks to be ready. I see the info messages here in the terminal. So one way I can confirm that it's ready to go is I can go to my browser and then go to localhost port 9200. And I should be able to get a status page here. So let's see. It looks like it's still starting up, so I'll just give it a second. But once it's ready, something should return here. Yeah, here we go here. And we see here it just returns some JSON that gives me some information about the instance itself, the running service for Elasticsearch. So once you see this, you know it's up and running. So now I can go over to my Django app and I can start thinking about how to use Elasticsearch inside of my app. So if you think of it in terms of a database, right now I have a SQLite database that represents like the main database in my app. So what I do is I have a configuration for it. So let me go to settings.py. So here under databases, we have my default database, which is just a SQLite database. So this is pointing to my SQLite database. But of course, if I had something like Postgres, then I'd have to put the URL for the Postgres database. So setting up Elasticsearch is similar. I need to have some kind of configuration, which I'll just put right here. So Elasticsearch DSL, which I'll install in a moment, but I just want to set up the configuration first. And then I'm going to have a default location for it. And then the key here will be hosts. And then after host, I need to pass in as a value the location. So localhost 9200. So HTTP, localhost, and then 9200. So it's that simple. So you see it's kind of similar to databases here. It's just the location of the Elasticsearch instance. So with that, now let me install the library that will allow me to actually interact with it. So the analogous thing here would be like the ORM in Django, where you can easily query the database or add things to the database. Elasticsearch DSL has something where you can interact with the index in Elasticsearch so you can get search results. So I'll go ahead and install that. Just pip install Django-Elasticsearch-DSL. So we'll let that install. And then I'll go to my installed apps and I'll just add it here. So after app, I'll put Django_Elasticsearch_DSL. So it's there. I don't believe there are any models. So let's try migrate. And yeah, there's nothing to migrate here. So there are no models here, but I do need to install it as an app. So now that I have this, I can start working with Elasticsearch. So we saw that I have models.py, and the point here is this represents something in the database. So I have books stored in the database. So with Elasticsearch, you do something that is similar to this. You define something called a document. So what I'll do is in app, I will create a file called documents.py. And the idea here is I'm going to set up a document that is basically the Elasticsearch document version of my book model. So I need to import a couple of things from Elasticsearch or Django Elasticsearch DSL. So from Django_Elasticsearch_DSL, I want to import document. And then also I'm going to import something called registries. So from the registries, I'm going to import registry. And the idea here is the registry just holds the types of documents that are in the Elasticsearch index. So for that, I first need to import my book model. So from models, import book. And then I'll use the registry decorator. So registry.register document. And what follows underneath is a class that represents a document. So here I'm going to create the book document. So a document for my book model. And there are two subclasses that go in here. One is called index, which just has some settings on the document itself for the index. So the name will be books. And then for settings, this is the default here. You can change this to something else, so you can probably even get away with not having it. But I'll say number of shards is 1. So basically 1 instance of Elasticsearch is going to have this. And then number of replicas we'll put as 0. All right, and the second class is going to be called Django, and this kind of maps the model that you have to the Elasticsearch document. So this may look familiar. This may look like a form or a serializer in Django REST framework. So the idea is you have a model and you pass book here, and then you list some fields that you're interested in using. I want to use all 3, so title, author, and summary. So once I have this document set up, that's basically it for the code to set up a document. So what's going to happen is Elasticsearch, once I build this index, it will allow me to store these books inside of the index and then query them using the Elasticsearch DSL query language. So because this is still analogous to working with the database, now that I've created this document, I have to actually add it inside of Elasticsearch, kind of like how I do manage.py migrate to actually add the table to the database when I define it in code. So the equivalent command here is going to be Python manage.py, and then I want to do search _ index -- rebuild. So rebuild just captures two different things at once. It creates it and then it adds all of the documents into the database. So for every book that I have in the database, it will add it into the index. So I can run this, and instead of summary, this should be description. I'm thinking of a similar idea, but the name is different. So are you sure you want to delete the books indices? Yes, because it doesn't exist yet. And then we see that it deleted the books index, it created the books index, and then it's indexing the one book objects that I have. So I have one book object and it added that to the index. And now the idea here is that anytime I add a new book to the database, so if I were to do it here, or if I did it in my code somewhere, it would automatically be added to the Elasticsearch index. So let me go ahead and add another book here. Let me just start up the server. And we'll call this Advanced Django. Also by me, this book teaches you all the hard stuff about Django. Okay. So added the second book. So now I have two books, Basics of Django and Advanced Django. So those are both in my Elasticsearch index now, and they're available to be searched. So let's go ahead and try that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to search for them in the shell. So Python manage.py shell. And then I need to import that book document class. So just like you import the model class when you want to query a model, you need to import the document that you want to search on. So I'm going to say from app.documents import document, or actually book document. So book document, and now I can search. So let's say book document search and then query. And the query that I want to run is, let's say, match. And then I want to look for a title. And then I want to look for a title that has the word basics in it. So that would be my query. I'll run this, and I just need an extra, or actually I added one extra paren. And then we see I get this search object at the end here, and I can loop over this, or I can convert it to a query set. So I can say to_query set. And then it gives me the query set with all the results that have been found. So we see the query set here has just one book, Basics of Django. If I run that same search again, but I put Django here, we see I get two books because both books have the word Django. So the query here is just looking for a match. So match tells Elasticsearch how you want to search. And then title is just the field that you're searching, and then the text that I'm searching for. So Django. So because both books have Django, they both get returned. And what it does is it automatically takes the Elasticsearch results and it converts it to a Django query set. So in the Elasticsearch results, so let me go back to that. If I just do it like this, and I'll make this Django again, we get something we can loop over. So I can say for result in underscore, which is just the results here, I'll print result. And now we see I get book document objects instead of model objects, simply because I haven't called the to query set. So the nature of the results kind of depends on what your use case is, but because this is in Django, you can either convert the results to a Django query set, so you can use the results that way, or you can just use the results that they give you natively, which are just Elasticsearch results. So now that we see how to do the basics of searching the index and how to add something, what I want to do is I want to build a very simple page where I can search and see the results. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add more books into my database because 2 isn't enough. And it's going to take a while because I'm importing from a large file. So I'm going to do that now, and then I'll come back when I'm done. Okay, I've added a bunch of books to the database. I've added something like 500 books, 501 books. And these are just books that I got from a list of books. So random books, random authors, random topics. But the idea is they're all in my database and they're all in my Elasticsearch index. So when I write the code for the UI, I'll be able to search for these books. So let's go back over to the code and let's go to app. Let's add a folder called templates. And I'm just going to put an index.html in here. This will be the page where I can search and get the results. So I have the code already written for the page here. So I'll just copy and paste that. And now I'll go to views and just get that up and running. So we'll call this index request. And I want to return a render and then request and then index.html. And then let's go over to URLs and we can import this. So from app.views, import index. And then I just want to add the path for this. So index here. Okay, so now if I go to my app, let's go localhost 8000. I missed an L there. So localhost 8000, we see I have this simple page where I can like search for a book. So this doesn't do anything yet, but the idea is the results will be here. It would be like title, author, and then description for like every single book that I find. So if I go over to views, the way that I'm going to have this work is basically if there's a Q URL parameter, I'm going to take that and I'm going to search on that. So what I can do is I can say Q equals request .get and then the letter Q. So what I mean by this is if I go over here and I do $Q equals, let's say Django, right? So this will search for Django and return some results when that Q equals Django is in the URL. So what I can do here is I can say if Q exists, so if there is a Q and it has a value, then I can run the query. So I'll start with the same query that I had before. So let me go ahead and import the book document. So I can say from .documents import book document. And what I want to do is I want to just search that. So I can say S for search, I guess, will be book document dot search dot query. And what I want to search for is the same thing. So this will be a match. And then the title is going to be equal to Q this time. And then that should be it. So I have the results here. And then basically what I want to do is I want to return those results to the template. So I'm going to say return render request index.html. Really, I can do this in a different way. So we'll have context equals this. And then context books or results, however you want to say it, will be equal to S, and then I'll return the context in both cases. So context here. And then inside of the template, I just need to loop over that. So let's see, where would the results be? Here. So I want to repeat this article section for each book. So first I'll say if books. So if the books exist as results in the context, I will run this block here. And then I'll have a for loop here. So for book in books, and then I'll end the for here in for. And then finally, I can put in the values. So we'll have book.title, book.author, and book.description. Okay, so let's give this a shot. Let's go over here, and we already have the Q equals Django. So let's run this. And now we see the two results. So Advanced Django and Basics of Django. These are the two books that I added about Django in the database, and then they got added to the Elasticsearch index. So let's just search for another book. Let's see. I see the word robot here. So I'll search for robot. And because my form is a form with Git on it, where is it? Here, it will add it to the URL automatically for me using the name Q here. So that's already set up. And then we see iRobot and the description. So let's try to find one that would have the same word over and over again. Oh, the word the. So search the, and now I have a bunch of books that have the word the, right? So it's just finding all of them, and notice that the search is very fast because it's in Elasticsearch. It's not in the Django model search. And maybe the Django model search would be fast because there are only 500 books, but if I had thousands of books, it would definitely be a lot slower. So you may have noticed that the query that I have is very simple, right? So it's only matching on the title. What if I wanted to match on something else? So what I can do is I can import one of the tools for querying. So I can say from Elasticsearch _DSL.query, I want to import something called multi-match. So this will allow me to match on multiple fields. So to use this, I can create like a separate query, and I'll pass it to this search here. So query will have multi-match. And then the query is going to be Q. So that's the text that I'm searching for. And then I can list out fields that I want to search across. So let's say title and description. And then I can pass this query to the query here. So query right here. And now let me try searching for, let's see, age. Let's see how many things show up for age. So search age. So we see the age of innocence appears first, and these results are ranked because it is a search engine. So by default, it ranks them by the most relevant. And then we see the eye of the world is a second result. This doesn't have the word age in the title, but as you see here, it has like the word age in the description. So with that, it matches. And the rest of the books, they don't have age in the title, but they have age in the description. And you can customize your query to rank the fields differently. Like you can say that maybe description has more of an impact on ranking than title. It's up to you, but this is just the default, so I'm using it here. You may have noticed that I have more results. Let's say I only wanted 5 results, then I can use the list slicing syntax to get only 5 results. So I can do 0 to 5. And then when I run this again, I put that on the wrong one. It should go on the query down here, but the idea is the same. We see here it has 5 results. So you only see 5 results. And this is probably good to do because you can have like a lot of results from any particular search. So you want to limit it by the number of things that make sense for your results page. And then the last cool thing I'll add is something called fuzziness. And this is something I can simply add to multi-match. So I can have fuzziness equals auto. And what this will do is even if I don't type in the word exactly the same, as long as it's close to the word, it can still match it. So what I mean by this is let me go over to my results here and let's see something short. Okay, the Iron King, right? So iron. So if I search for iron here, we see I get the Iron King as the first result. But what if I mistyped it? So instead of an O, I put an I. So iron. If I search for that with fuzziness on, it still matches the word iron because now it's accounting for like users mistyping things. If I remove that and I search for iron again, I get no results because I just turned off the fuzziness. So if you want to have that set up kind of like Google or any other search engine, you can use fuzziness auto so it will correct for how the user is typing. So of course, this is just a basic query that you can run. You can have this be more complicated. You can have like pagination. You can do a ton of stuff. So you just have to look up the API for searching Elasticsearch. But I think this basic way of querying will get you a long way. And it's going to give you the performance benefits of searching a search engine instead of searching like a SQL database, because searching a search engine is going to be a lot faster when you're searching for text inside of the things inside of the database. So that's it for this video. That's all I want to show you. If you have any questions about anything that I've done here, feel free to leave a comment down below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel already, please subscribe. So thank you for watching, and I will talk to you next time.